We're live. We're working. G'day everybody there. Who have we got? Duck. Hi. How are you, mate? So, while a few other people jump on, I thought, considering we don't have a recorded video for you guys today on a Monday, we're going to do a bit of a live stream. And to start off with, I just want to thank a couple of our Patreon supporters. Since I put up a video 2 or 3 weeks ago, we talked about how, we're a bit sort of out of work as much with all our shows not going on. And now more than ever, the wildlife videos, the support of our Patreon supporters has become more important. And you guys have answered, and we've had a bunch more people, or a couple more people jump on. So a big thanks to Sharon Kazarowoski, have to excuse my pronunciation, Royce Ranard, Susan Bailey, and Rose from Super Shark Studios. You guys are our newest patrons for March, and those of you who are at the right levels and stuff, you'll see your names in the credits and whatnot. And while we're out of shows, you guys are what's basically keeping the balls rolling, keeping everybody fed here, keeping our videos coming out. So that's a huge thanks. But what I thought we'd do for the video today is actually I've gone through a bunch of our snake videos from the last year, and we've got 158 or 159 videos out so far. And I just picked out a couple of the snake questions because, if you watch our videos, you're probably a fan of snakes. And we thought of picking out a couple of questions that either pop up reoccurringly or seem particularly interesting, and I'll try and answer them for you. After that, we can do what we normally do, have a bit of a chat. But we've also got, of course, Jake here, our Murray-Darling carpet python who we're working on. And you've probably seen him in some of our other videos. He's still a bit wriggly, but he is getting more and more relaxed. So we'll keep having him appear until he's doing birthday parties and whatnot. We've got a few more people jumping on out there. Who have we got? Duck's great. That's fantastic. Danny Smith, happy Easter Monday. How are you? Wildlife Brothers, what's going on, Nick? Great to hear from you too. I hope everybody had a great Easter. Danny Smith, snakes are fantastic, I think. G'day, mate. How's certainly a soft spot of mine. So we'll do our questions and answers that I've got written down first, and you guys can think of any others that you've got additionally. You'll have to excuse the we've got tents and campfires and everything in the background. G'day, you bloody drongo. We're not allowed to actually go camping with social isolation, and our family go camping every year. We're actually going to go to rodeos this year for Easter, and they're all cancelled. So we're camping in the backyard, which is why we've got the tent and the chickens, the birds and whatnot all here. When you've got a wildlife safari in your backyard, it makes sense to go camping at home, I suppose. But the first question that I've got written down on my list to answer is from Rami Lawrence. Have you ever been bitten by a venomous snake? And I get asked this one a fair bit. The answer is, in short, I say no. I've never been bitten by an elapid, which is what Australia's venomous snakes are. Dry bite, venomous bite, either or. Never been bitten by an elapid, and I've worked with an awful lot of them, as you've probably seen in our videos, from tiger snakes, taipans, brown snakes. I have actually been bitten by a brown tree snake, which is Australia's only venomous colubrid, rear fangs. And the reason I don't include it as saying I've been bitten by a venomous snake is they don't affect about 90% of people. 10% of people have an allergic reaction, like anything from a stomach ache to a headache, dizziness to real medical problems. I found out I'm in that 90%. And for a start, I possibly wasn't even envenomated because brown tree snakes literally have to chew their venom in. So I still say no. It wasn't, an elapid. It wasn't what most people think of when it comes to venomous snakes. And nothing sort of came of it, I suppose. So to this day, we'll still say not a single venomous snake bite. And I would like to keep it that way. You might see in some of my videos, some people might imagine that we're a bit blasé handling venomous snakes. And it's really not the case. If you watch closely, this is a bit of a trade secret, but if you watch closely, you'll see an awful lot of cuts in our venomous snake videos. If ever there is a moment where a snake is uncomfortable or unsure, or I'm not sure what he's going to do or can't read him, we'll put him down, we'll let him settle, we'll cut, we'll pick him back up again, and we'll continue. So we're very, very cautious handling venomous snakes. but there's also a bit of an art and you know, not gonna lie, a bit of a showmanship element to making it look a lot easier than it really is. You know, I used to do crocodile feeding shows, and a big part of it was you've got to interact with the public while you're concentrating on an animal that could kill you. So, no, never had a venomous snake bite. Would like to keep it that way, and trying my very best to make it that way. Been bitten by a snake right on my bum, had to go to hospital for 3 weeks. That'd suck. Were you all right? Well, you're obviously still here. That snake has amazing patterns. How's it going, John? Yeah, fantastic. So we'll go to the next one. We'll answer all our questions, then we'll flick back through everybody's comments a bit more, eh? So Toby Narain, what snake do I consider to be the most dangerous? I've heard it's the black mamba. Now, I get a lot of black mamba comments in my videos, and I wish I could give you better answers, but the reality is I can't handle mambas in Australia. We don't have any mambas in captivity, even in zoos. But that being said, I've watched an awful lot of video of people working with mambas. I've got some very good friends overseas, Dingo Dinkelman, Venom Man 20, who keep mambas. So with all that, I know a little bit, and I work with people who do know about mambas. And the funny thing is, everybody goes on to the mamba being the most dangerous snake, and I'm not going to say it's not, but what I am going to say is there is different things that make a snake dangerous. What might be the most dangerous snake from a handler's perspective is not going to be the most dangerous snake from the general public's perspective. Most people would probably consider the saw-scaled viper the most dangerous snake on the planet, based on the fact it kills the most people. But a big part of that is it's found over a massive geographic range. Pretty much all of India, Pakistan, the Middle East, and most of Africa. You live with 2/3 of the world's population, you're going to kill more people than the taipan, lives middle of nowhere. The snake that I think would be the most dangerous when you take into account the geographic range would be the Russell's viper in India. It's one of their big four, along with the saw-scaled viper, but it's kind of like a saw-scaled viper on steroids. Where the two species overlap, the Russell's viper kills more people. It's dangerous for the same reasons. It's not necessarily outwardly aggressive. It doesn't, stand up and throw itself around and come at you, but it's very, very well camouflaged. It's active at night time, and it lives in areas where a lot of people just step on it in the bush. On top of that, it's significantly more venomous than the saw-scaled viper. It's larger, it's got larger fangs, so it kills more people than the saw-scaled viper, where the two species coincide. So I consider the Russell's viper to probably be the most dangerous snake in the wild in terms of its impact on the general public. That regards what's the most dangerous snake to handle. Like I said, I haven't handled mambas, but this is where mambas do come into their own. Now, it's not necessarily, and we'll talk about this one in a second, their aggression. I don't like calling any snakes aggressive. It's a fact that they're a snake that's very, very capable of climbing, which means they don't sit on a hook very well, from what I've seen. They're very, agile. They're able to come back very quickly. They're fast. Everything they do is quick. So arguably, the mamba would be the most dangerous snake from a handler's perspective, but from the regular public, I don't think the mamba even rates in the most dangerous snakes on earth. Mates have told me brown tree bites. Yeah, they do suck. A lot of people sort of bleed pretty profusely. What's the scariest animal adventure? The first time I ever raided crocodile nests would be a good story. When I was 18, I was working at a zoo in North Queensland, and my first ever time raiding a crocodile nest and being sort of in a job by myself. So when we raid crocodile nests, we've got a few different groups of people. So there's a person whose job is to collect the eggs, obviously. And this is a pretty scary job because your head's down in the nest. You can't see what's going on because you've got to mark each egg because you can't turn them. You've got a spotter or two spotters with you, and their job is to basically keep the female croc away from you. And in captivity, we also have somebody whose job is to distract the male. And this was the first ever occasion my job was to distract the male. And we were raiding the eggs from a pair who the male was named Jaws. And I was splashing the water with my stick with a piece of meat on it, trying to lure Jaws out, and he wasn't coming. And me being 18 and impatient, I kept splashing and splashing and splashing, and he didn't come out. I stepped a bit closer, and I had a big splash, and he came roaring out, and his head went past the end of the stick. So when he looks up, the next thing he sees is me. And I did the wrong thing. I turned and I started going the other direction. And it sounds like common sense, but in reality, once his guts hit the ground, I could have outrun him backwards. I could have, yeah, outrun him backwards. So basically, I should have kept my eyes on him. But I turned my back, I did the wrong thing. I headed out the other direction, and he almost beat me to the gate. He got his head to the actual gate, and if he had have gotten out that gate, then he would have been loose in the wildlife park with an awful lot of people. So that was pretty scary. I never made that mistake again, and I learned to always, you know, face up to the crocodiles we're working with. So that was a pretty scary tale. Congratulations on my engagement. Thank you, gentlemen. Why am I pretending to be scared of certain snakes? There's not too many snakes that I'm scared of. I'm certainly cautious with a fair few. Have I been affected by the coronavirus? Like, I haven't caught it or been sick or anything. But yeah, as a business, we've been pretty hardly hit. We rely on public events for a living, and we are now essentially unemployed. We don't have any shows. Our birthday parties, our schools, our kindergartens, everything that we do to make the money to feed our animals and care for our animals is gone, which is why we're putting out more videos than normal. And it's also why we're really thankful to those couple of extra Patreon supporters that we have. So if you want to help us get through coronavirus, you want to keep our videos coming out, check us out on Patreon, jump on in, and you'll get your name in the credits of videos. But the third question, Serenity Wilson. I've heard you say a lot that snakes are not aggressive. The only one that I say that about black mambas. So I've already talked a little bit about black mambas, and people love asking me about mambas. Fancy asking an Australian about an African snake. If you want to know about mambas, ask Dingo Dinkelman. He's a friend of mine, and he keeps a lot of mambas. He loves them. But my opinion on mambas, having watched all this footage of dingoes, and I do have a slightly different opinion to the way that Dingo describes them. I still don't describe them as aggressive. I describe them as a highly, highly defensive snake. And, you know, there's lots of good footage, not just of Dingo, but of Steve Irwin playing with mambas and Steve Backshall, all sorts of presenters dealing with mambas. And yeah, mambas will definitely come towards people when there's either, you know, you're standing between them and their hiding place, or when you're out in the open and they can't beat you to another hiding place. Yes, mambas are the fastest snake on the planet, but their natural predators can all outrun them. It's what makes them their natural predators. So snakes, if he can't outrun you to his hiding hole, his only choice is to stand and fight, which is really no different to when the gazelle can't outrun the lion. You know, it's going to turn the pointy end towards the lion. It's not going to keep running. It's going to get eaten. Or, you know, the wildebeest, or the buffalo can't outrun the wolves. It's going to turn and fight at a certain point. And I don't think that's aggression. I think that comes to the best defense is a good offense. And mambas are really good at this. But if you do watch this footage very closely, you'll see lots of bits of Dingo's footage actually, where as soon as he moves to position himself and there is an escape route, the mamba takes it. So that to me screams out that he's not really an aggressive snake. He's a snake that if he has to, he will bite you, he will do what he has to get you out of the way. But his goal is to get to the other side of you. Really no different to if you stand between a bull and an open gate, you know. So not what I'd call an aggressive snake at all. I'd laugh if that snake grabbed a bird flying by. This guy barely bites his own dinner. Hi KML26. Duck, do I have a favourite snake? And if I do, what is it? The actual favourite snakes that I have change a fair bit, I suppose. One snake that I've always had a soft spot for would be tiger snakes. When I was a teenager and I started keeping venomous snakes, I kept quite a few tiger snakes, and I just loved how variable they are. You know, it's like a venomous corn snake. There's so many different colours and patterns, except they're all natural. We haven't bred any of them. Just you catch 10 different tiger snakes in an area and they're all 10 different colours. And I loved it. So yeah, I like tiger snakes a fair bit. As far as a captive animal goes or something like that, the Owen Pally python. I've got to play with a couple of young Owen Pally pythons, which is pretty cool. There's only maybe 50 in captivity in the world. And they look really cool. I'd love to be able to play with sort of Owen Pally pythons on a more regular basis. But we'll answer another question before we get too stuck into it. So we've got two more. So from Josh Allen. Speaking of tiger snakes, Josh Allen, are tiger snakes actually a type of cobra, or are they just closely related? Now imagine this is from we did a video on tiger snakes, and in that video, the tiger snake that I'm working with is a particularly fiery individual. He's not mean, he's never been handled much. He was bred in an outdoor pit, not really dealt with. So he thinks I'm going to hurt him. And if you watch that video, you can see him in front of me, you know, flattening out and hissing and huffing, and he flattens himself right out like a cobra, but instead of just around his head, it's the top third of his body. And it looks very, very cobra-like. And you're not the first person to notice this. When people first arrived to Australia, they thought a lot of our snakes were very cobra-like. The brown snake, the eastern brown snake, or brown snake family actually, their genus name, Pseudonia, literally means false cobra, because they flatten out like a cobra. So people thought this. And on top of that, the mulga snake, when people first came to Australia and they described it, then they thought that he was a cobra. He was actually put in the Nia genus. So, you know, a lot of people thought Australian snakes are related to cobras, tiger snake included, but they're in the same family. They're both elapids, but so is the mamba, so is the coral snake in the United States. So, you know, we're in the same genus as orangutans. It doesn't make us very closely related to orangutans or bonobos. So they're about that related. The fact that they both flatten out is more a result of convergent evolution. Much the same reason as the penguin and the killer whale. They're not related at all, but they're both the same color scheme, black on top, white underneath, because it works. The same trait works in both you know, situations. So that's why they are the way they are. They're not particularly closely related at all. We'll flick through. Do you let your snakes hang around outside your house, or does the girl make you get rid of the property? So we don't have, well, we live on a farm. You can, yeah, we got paddocks all around us. So there is snakes passing through our property. We try not to encourage them around the house, so we keep the actual house yard pretty clean. But you know, if they're out the bottom of a paddock, something like that, fine. If they're around the house, I, being me, am able to, and you know, experienced enough to pick them up, take them to somewhere else on the property and let them go. And this is mostly for the fact that we have a young daughter. You might have seen her in some of our other videos. She was with last Monday's video with Rocco, our black cockatoo. And, you know, she's growing up in a house full of snakes. So she's got no fear of snakes, which means we're still trying to teach her not to touch snakes. So for that reason, we don't let snakes hang around the actual house yard. But being a farm, they are, of course, on the property. So we do have a few snakes around the property. As far as my snakes, we're moving towards keeping a few snakes outside. How long have me and Elizabeth been together? About 5 years. So for those of you who don't know, John saw on Facebook the other day that we got engaged yesterday. So hence the tell us about my wife. So not wife, fiance. As of yesterday, she's not a reptile person. Our mutual interest is horses, radio, things like that. She tolerates all my animals pretty well. But, oh, thank you, Wildlife Brothers. Other than that, I don't know what you really want to know. We both ride horses. We both competed in radios. We met through all that sort of stuff. We're both very interested in farming and agriculture and all that. The big difference is, of course, I'm content working with Australian animals, reptiles and all that sort of stuff, and she's happy to look at them and not have them come near her. So, yeah. She's also terrified of the camera, so you're not likely to see her appear in anything anytime soon. What's the scariest snake encounter? Dreams made about home. Scariest snake encounter I've had. It's hard. I've been involved with a couple of people. I've never been bitten, like I said at the beginning, but I've been working with people, both as a snake catcher at the mines and been working with people in reptile facilities at zoos, and had other people been bitten. And that's pretty scary, not for like my life, but to be the person administering first aid to somebody else. The taipan that we used to use for our videos, Slug, she actually bit her last owner a meter away from me. He was taking her out to pack them up in her boxes for me to come and collect them. And he got tagged, so I had to wrap him up and you know, wait with him outside for the ambulance to come. And that was pretty scary stuff, being bitten by, or having somebody bitten by the most venomous snake on earth in front of me, which I was about to take home and use for educational displays, and having to administer him first aid. You know, somebody's life in your hands is a pretty scary encounter. But we'll tackle our last question before we go through the rest of the comments, because we got a few of them coming flying in. From Laxon9003, of all the snakes you teach us about, are they born in captivity or did you catch them all? They all seem quite calm to handle. So in Australia, we've got really, really strict laws about owning wildlife, taking wildlife out of the wild, all that sort of stuff. So none of our animals, none of our snakes presently come out of the wild. The only animal that I've got that I can think of who was born in the wild would be Boo, our wombat, and she was orphaned, and she was taken into a program basically for non-releasable animals and then given to us for a permanent home. She was just too humanized to survive release. This doesn't happen with reptiles, of course, because they're not reliant on mothers teaching to help them survive. So no, none of our snakes come from the wild. They're all captive born, but that could be anywhere from, you know, guys like this who's been somebody's pet that they either lost interest in or they got scared of and they needed a home for it, down to trading with breeders, these sorts of things, down to, you know, there's breeders who keep some of my venomous snakes just in large outdoor enclosures. They're essentially wild snakes just managed in captivity, so they're not handled, they act like wild snakes. So you know, like that tiger snake in the video I referenced before. So yeah, no wild reptiles in any of my videos. As far as why they are calm to handle, for a start, they're captive born, which goes a long way to helping. But on top of that, I handle my animals a fair bit because I need to. These aren't just pets, you know, I love them all like pets, but they're my work, my work animals, basically. I need my animals, my pythons has to be tame enough that people can handle them. This guy here, you know, he is now starting to go to schools and kindergartens and birthday parties, and over the next 12 months he'll start going, if they start again, going to agricultural shows and bigger events for people to handle. So I need to spend time making sure he's not just handleable for me. I don't need him as tame as a regular pet. I need him used to people, you know, who don't know how to handle snakes. The venomous snakes I need tame for a different reason. Obviously we don't let anybody handle venomous snakes. See you, Duck. Thanks for dropping by. But I need them tame enough that I can be handling them while still addressing the public. You know, I have a fenced pit that I set up at shows where I take out the most venomous snakes on the planet and talk to the public. So yeah, I need to spend a fair bit of time working on my snakes to keep them tame from that regard. So that's our 5 questions from that I've saved up from our last couple of months worth of snake videos. That Arnold Lane, Oi Nugget, answer my question. Don't ask stupid questions. Sorry. Jomman, snake symbol. Is there a way to tell which snakes are venomous in Australia by looking at them? Not really. Well, you can tell by looking, but people ask that wanting like a magical thing, you know. There's this Facebook post that gets around being like, if a snake has a cat's eye pupil, like an elliptical pupil, then it's venomous, and if it's got a round pupil, it's not venomous. Now in Australia, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on my dodgy phone screen, but our pythons all have elliptical pupils, and they're non-venomous. Our venomous snakes all have round pupils, and they're venomous. But then we've got some of our colubrids who are in between, or one or the other, so you can't really use that to rely on. Also, if you look at him late at night, then, you know, he's going to have a rounder pupil than during the day. So yeah, can't rely on eyes. Even in the United States where that post was written, it works in one state of the United States apparently. So there's no one thing. The other thing people say is, you know, if it climbs, it's a python. If it's on the ground, it's venomous. Most snake catchers I know, most of our venomous snakes prefer to be on the ground, but every snake catcher I know has caught something up in a house or in a tree or something like that. So can't rely on that. Can't rely on head shape. We rely on a bunch of factors. And well, the brown snake climb, hunt in a tall hedge. It's not their natural way of life, but they are very capable of doing it. So Rami, how are you? You got to mention, we covered one of the questions that you've left in one of my videos before about, you know, have I been bitten by venomous snakes? So it'll be right back at the beginning. But yeah, so we can't rely on that. So what we can rely on is the combination of a bunch of factors. And it's really tricky. It's not like one thing where I can say you've got to look at the scales, you've got to look at the head shape. The best way that I can describe it is if somebody is out there is into horses. I don't know if any of you guys are into horses, but if you're really into horses, you could go to an agricultural show and look at the, you know, horse events going on, and you could probably pick out a stock horse or a quarter horse or a thoroughbred, and you could, you know, tell which one's which. But if your friends asked you how you could tell, it's really hard to describe because there's so many little things that you're looking at. And snakes is like that. So here's a combination of, you know, their length, their patterns, their colors, and those things are less reliable. Yes, there's some that are dead giveaways, but then there's always exceptions to the rules. Where you're living, is going to make a big part, because it's the difference with, say, a western brown snake and an eastern brown snake. Scales, the patterns, barring around the lips, head shape, all these sorts of things play pretty significant roles. So the best way to learn venomous snakes from non-venomous snakes, in my opinion, and I try not to teach snake ID, the reason being, it's interesting. It doesn't make you safer. G'day, Coop, how are you? It doesn't make it any safer, because the first aid for all our venomous snakes is the same. So you don't need to know what it is. Just wrap it up, go to hospital. And once you get there, they can figure out what you've been bitten by using a venom toxicity test. So they can give you the right antivenin. If they can't do that, they can still give you polyvalent, which is universal antivenin. So snake ID is interesting. It's good to know because it gets people involved, but it doesn't necessarily make it any safer. Yeah. So the best thing I tell people could do is learn the snakes in your area. If you really want to do it, learn the snakes in your area, and whenever in doubt, assume it's venomous. We'll go back up because I'm missing for you. That's a stunning Murray Darling. He's a very cool snake. G'day, Darren. How are things going? Things are well. Will a brown snake climb and hunt in tall hedge? Yeah, we've just covered that, haven't we? So yeah, it's not their natural way of living, but they'll certainly do it. Do you think Mel's LD50 test is accurate for toxicity in humans? Not necessarily. A great example, we talk about taipans. You know how a taipan can kill 250,000 mice or something with one bite, but they eat mice. People don't realise that, a laboratory mouse is not the same as the plague mouse that you get out in the bush. One has lived alongside taipans for eons and has had a natural selection to avoid predation by the taipan. We can't assume that it's going to have the exact same level of resistance to a laboratory mouse, which is bred to basically, for us to give it anything we want. We give them cancer and diabetes and heart disease so that we can learn how to treat them. So we can't assume that. But it's the best thing we've got. So I don't think it gives us a great example when we say this snake can kill this many people. But what it does do is, we're mammals, they're mammals, our systems are relatively similar, where we can say this one is more dangerous and this one is less dangerous. So it gives us a rough guide, but a more accurate guide than anything else available to us. Are taipans, king cobras, mambas, eastern browns very close related? They all look similar. Can these snakes mentioned breed with each other? They're all in the family Elapidae, but that basically includes the vast majority of, all of Australia's venomous snakes, with the exception of the brown tree snake, who's a colubrid and barely venomous. But a lot of the world's most venomous snakes are all elapids. That being said, human beings and all the great apes are in not the same genus, the same family. We're all in the same family, Hominidae. And I think that even goes further, includes some of the lesser apes. So it depends what you call close related. Can they breed? Not those individuals. They're too distantly related. Some snakes can crossbreed, but they're generally going to share the same genus, with a few exceptions going a little bit further. What species of python is that I've got here? This guy here is a Murray Darling carpet python. So arguably is just a carpet python. That's a species, and Murray Darling is a subspecies, if we even are going to consider it to be a distinct subspecies. Is that a full-grown Murray Darling? No, this guy can get quite a bit bigger. He was fairly underfed when he came to me, so I don't know if he's going to get any bigger than what he is now there. Favourite snake? Tiger snakes and Owen Pellies would be pretty cool. Just seen a Ruscale 15 minutes ago sitting in a puddle. I wish I could find rough-scale snakes and things in my backyard, but we've got two species here, tigers and copperheads. Hi, g'day Bradley Bruce, how are you? I think we've pretty well covered everybody's questions. Let me just flick on back. Nah. Have I seen the newest species of taipan, the Western Desert taipan? No, I haven't. I believe there's a couple in captivity in Adelaide, either at Adelaide Zoo or a South Australian Museum or something like that. But no, I would love to be able to feature them. Unfortunately, the facility they're in, wherever it will be somewhere that's, they'll be under basically quarantine conditions. Most zoos don't let the public come in and handle their animals that are behind the scenes for that sort of reason. Of their own. They don't want to bring diseases in. How big will the Murray Darling get? Murray Darlings have a massive distribution. I've heard of Murray Darlings up around the 10-foot mark, but an awful lot stay around the sort of 6 to 8 foot mark. But you know, it's how big do people get? Some of us get 8'4", and I can't even push 6 foot. Jealous of your two species, haven't found either of them yet. Oh, we do get browns about 15 minutes north of us. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And there's red bellies, you know, in the area, but they're very, very localized populations. We're just too dry over much of our country. Got to go to the rivers. I got spots to find the next. Does antivenin work for all snake bites? No. So there's specific antivenin. So if you're bitten by a tiger snake, you get tiger snake antivenin. Then there's black snake antivenin, which will do red belly black snakes, who can also be treated with tiger snake bites. Mulgars, spotted blacks, collets, blacks, all that sort of thing. We've got brown snake antivenin, death adder antivenin, taipan antivenin, sea snake antivenin, that sort of stuff. Then we've got polyvalent, which is universal antivenin, but our polyvalent is universal antivenin for Australia. So if you're bitten by an unidentified snake in India, Australian universal antivenin is not going to help you. India has what they call their polyvalent, which just treats the big four, which is the Russell's viper, the source-guard viper, the Indian or common crate, and the Indian cobra. So that's their universal antivenin. You get bitten by a snake in Australia, you use Indian antivenin, you might die. Then there is a handful of snakes that have no antivenin. As far as I'm aware, boom slangs. I could be wrong. Ask Dingo Dinkelman. Check out his channel. He'll be able to give you an answer. But I believe boom slangs don't have a specific antivenin. Do I know much about collet snakes? We do keep a couple of collet snakes. My video from, not last week, the week before, we talked about collet snakes. So you can see our girl Jasmine, I think I used in that video. And yeah, we talk all about collets. How many snakes do I have? I don't count them. And the reason being, and she's busy at the paddock, is if I count them and my other half asks how many I have to give her a number. It's a lot safer to say, look, I don't know. But it's a few. It changes. Like, we get a lot of snakes given to us, like this guy, who just need good homes, and I take them, I work on them, and then I make the decision whether they're just suitable as a pet, or whether they're going to make it into, you know, doing shows. So a lot of those snakes come, they do their 6 months, then if they're not going to be good enough, you know, I need an animal that the public can handle, I might pass them on to somebody else. So the number's always changing. We don't breed much. We have a few things breed. We lose a few every year, especially because, you know, a lot of the snakes given to us aren't in great condition when they arrive. So things like that. But yeah, the number's always changing. Anacondas, boas, and pythons related because they grow very big and use the same technique. They are related, but distantly. So they're both what we call boids. So they're different in that, you know, all the pythons are egg layers and all the boas are, including anacondas, are live bearers. So Boidae would be not genus, family, be just after family, suborder or something like that. So they are related but distantly. What would I say is the snake's worst predator? Depending where you are in Australia, in a lot of Australia, their worst predator would be other snakes. Snakes definitely predate on other snakes. The Woma python is a great example. Woma pythons are very endangered in the Strzelecki Desert, part of South Australia. They're common in other places. And the South Australian zoos tried breeding them and releasing them. They released 9 with radio transmitters in their stomachs. And when they tracked them down a couple of months down the track, they tracked down 9 king brown snakes with radio transmitters in their stomachs, where they'd eaten the Woma pythons that were released. So they had 100% mortality because of other snakes. So yeah, snakes are a big predator. Throughout the central Australia, things like our monitor lizards, Parentes and Panoptes, which are, you know, the biggest lizards in the country, and Panoptes, the yellow spotted monitor, is another one. So yeah, a lot of other reptiles, but you know, kookaburras, birds of prey, all that sort of stuff. Have I been holding up all right? I know these times are stressful. Just want to know that you've always supported the Wildlife Brothers. Thank you, guys. If you guys are interested in wildlife, check out the Wildlife Brothers. And Coops Reptiles, he's hanging around here as well. They've both got fantastic channels. But yeah, we're doing all right. We're thankful we've got a couple more Patreon supporters this month, which, you know, it's not not making money, but it means that we're able to keep everybody fed a little bit better than we would if we were relying entirely on yeah, not having any work. So yeah, we're doing all right. We're going to keep putting out our videos. We're going to soldier on through, and we'll hopefully be here when everything settles down. I hope everybody else up there is okay as well. What snakes other than Antaresia would you recommend for a new snake keeper? This is an interesting subject. You know, people say, what's the best species? And I'm always hesitant to say, this is the species you should start with. Because, you know, I could say the Stimson's python. But if you've got your heart set on a jungle carpet python, you're probably not going to spend the same amount of time working on the Stimson's python as you would on a jungle carpet. And the jungle carpet's a great example. A lot of people want them because they look pretty, and people say, oh, they're snappy. And the issue is, if, let's say you got a Murray Darling, and you got bitten by it as a baby, and you hop on Facebook, and you say, I got bitten by my baby Murray Darling, what do I do? Everybody say, oh, Murray Darlings, they're brilliant. Just keep working on him, he'll become good, and you're going to do that, hopefully. If you hop on and say, look, I was bitten by my jungle carpet python, there's going to be a bunch of people go, oh, jungle carpets, they're all nuts. It's going to happen. You can't stop that. And if you're a new keeper, you're going to be put off. I think, you're going to get the best out of whatever snake you want. That being said, you want to use common sense. Obviously, venomous snakes, new keepers, out the window. Anything over 10 foot long, I do not think olive pythons and scrub pythons should be kept by anybody under 18 or without a few years of snake experience. But what I tell people to do is think about the size snake you want. So if you want a 2-3 foot snake, then your options are going to be Antaresia, children's, Stimson's, spotteds, and there is the pygmy, but the pygmy is a little bit fragile for people who are wanting something to handle. Step up. Rather than going species, the next size up. You've got some of the smaller Woroma pythons, if you steer away from South Australian Woromas. Woromas, water pythons, again, snappy, but I've met plenty of friendly water pythons, and they're from the people who like them, so they work on them. Those sorts of things. Some of the carpet pythons. Then you've got, the bigger carpet pythons, all that. Yeah, get the snake that you love, and just make sure that, the wonderful world of Facebook, when I started keeping reptiles, which wasn't that long ago, it was, 16 to 18 years ago, something like that. Facebook wasn't, well, I wasn't on Facebook anyway. So to get advice from reptiles, you had to go to a reptile club. They might have a meeting here in Australia. It was, 4 times a year. And you had to wait. Basically, I'd write down my questions, and when I'd go there, I'd ask everybody else I could. Today, if you're getting an animal, make friends with other people who keep that animal, and you're going to have good people to get good advice from. So, pick a snake you like, but then research that and make the decision for yourself if you think that's going to be the right one. If you don't, pick another. But yeah, the only real restriction that I put on people isn't this one's good and this one's not. It's just pick the size that you're comfortable working with and then work within those handful of species. Sorry to give a vague answer, but I think it's the best one. Cheers, mate, and thanks, mate. No worries, Cooper and Wildlife Brothers. Mid snakes too, I think, are the smarter, more intelligent. Some of our lapids, I think taipans are very alert. They're always watching what's going on. And I have limited experience with cobras, but I have worked with cobras at zoos and wildlife parks. And some of our cobras, our Mozambique spitters, they're always watching what's going on. You could just tell that snake was watching you rather than sitting in its hide box thinking you're a bird coming in. You should certainly do some videos on my setups and what goes into keeping all this wildlife. Yeah, I'm not sure. I might have talked to you privately about it before, Coop. I've always steered clear of doing the husbandry side stuff. For a start, it's not really been what our channel's about, and you guys do it so well. Coops, Aussie Reptiles, Jake, he does it so well. Lots of people do. Reptile Mountain TV. But we've started slowly doing some of this stuff, and what we're going to do is that stuff's going to fit in our Monday videos. So every Wednesday, we're going to put out the videos that you guys will subscribe for, species spotlights or tackling a question or a topic. Last week we did, how did koalas get chlamydia? Talked all about chlamydia in koalas. And every Monday, we're going to do a bonus video, which could be this, questions and answers, could be live stream. And it could be some behind the scenes type stuff. We're going to be doing some enrichment with some of our animals over the next few months, our birds and our marsupials and stuff, just because they're not doing shows anymore, while we're out of work, but we want to keep their minds going. So we might make some videos out of that as well. Yeah. I have a few more questions and I'll hop off before my phone dies on me. I'm interested in keeping Murray Darlings and just wanting to set up. Yeah, so obviously, Murray Darling will depend on the size of it. So if you get a baby, it's going to need pretty much a similar setup to an Antaresia. But I won't go into in-depth about that. Leave a question on one of my videos or find us on Facebook. Send us a message there. Otherwise, I'll be talking for half an hour and our video will finish. Let's get this next video. We go from 0 to 3 in a year. Yeah, they're very addictive. Sounds good, mate. Keen for everything I put out. Are endangered species more people should know about? Any endangered species? Yeah, I think, unfortunately, a lot of our endangered species in Australia are sort of less sexy, I suppose. They're all small things. The kowari and the mulgara and little marsupials, the western swamp tortoise. looks just like a long-necked turtle, but it's critically endangered. There's only a couple of hundred of them. People need to know about these animals. You need to think, when I say endangered wildlife, instead of thinking black rhinoceroses and elephants and tigers and pandas, you need to think about western swamp tortoises and kangaroo island dunarts and the glossy red-tailed black cockatoo. Because, you know, it's not that people don't like them, it's just they don't know about them. You can't like an animal you don't know exists, and people won't conserve an animal that they don't like. So yeah, I think Australians need to talk about and brag about and get excited about our wildlife, and that of course starts with the endangered stuff. All right, we might finish things up there, guys, but I don't know. Let me know how you think it's all gone. If you've enjoyed live streams and this sort of Q&A stuff, what other stuff you'd like to see in our bonus videos. We've got, you know, our regular videos, we've got a fair few saved up from our last trip to Adelaide, which is, of course, thanks to our Patreon supporters. If you want to keep this stuff coming out, best things you can do. We've got a big goal by my 30th birthday, which is 28th of June. We want to hit 10,000 subscribers, and currently we're on a trajectory to just miss it. So if you guys can do me a favor, consider it an engagement present, and share our videos, get all your friends to, thank you, Rami. If you can get all your friends to subscribe to our channel and help us reach 10,000 subscribers before my 30th birthday, that would be fantastic. And if you want to go a step further and help us survive this sort of corona epidemic without any work, without our animals being able to go out and do what they're trained to do and visit people and educate people, please think about supporting us on Patreon. It doesn't have to be much. You can do $1, you can do $10 and get your name in the credits of our videos. And if you run a business and you'd like a shout out, you know, we've got options for that as well, because that's what's keeping everybody fed here at the moment. We're going into winter, which means feeding goes down for the reptiles anyway, but our heating goes through the roof. We spend a couple of $1,000s on heating every quarter, keep everybody warm and happy. So Patreon support goes a long way, but you know, not everybody can do that. Best thing, just share our videos, put them on Facebook and get your friends to subscribe, because we want to be around at the end of all this and we want to hit 10,000 subscribers by the 28th of June. So any other questions, any ideas for other bonus videos? In 10 minutes time or so, this will become a regular video on our page, and you can leave your comments there, so I'll see them. Other than that, guys, thank you for sticking around for 40 minutes. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's something a bit different. And check on next Wednesday. We'll have our regular species spotlight coming out. Other than that, be nice to wildlife. Have a good one and take care.